It's Steam Next Fest, and if you know anything about this channel, I'm gonna find a way to talk about 3D platformers. So I looked through a bunch of AI slop and came across a few non-slop pretty good games. They happen to be 3D platformers. So I'm gonna use this video to talk about them and hope I don't ramble for too long. So the first demo I tried is called Bombun. Bombun? It's a bomb and a bunny. So on the surface, this seems pretty simple, and it actually is pretty simple. It's a level-based platformer where, as the title suggests, you are a bunny and you carry bombs. So the thing that I really liked about this game is how it handles its bomb. So at any time throughout the game, you can either hold a bomb and throw it somewhere far away, or you can slide it / kick it into something that's more directly in front of you. And the developers use this for some pretty cool puzzles, and it's just really fun throwing and kicking bombs at things. So the bombs are not only just a bomb thing, they're also deeply integrated into the actual platforming that you do. When you jump, if you hold the bomb mid-jump and then jump once again, the bomb you're holding gets thrown downwards and you perform a proper double jump. Attempting to double jump without a bomb will actually weirdly, I don't really get what it does, but it kind of makes you jump downwards, so it doesn't really work. And the fact that you have to hold the bomb and throw it downwards just to double jump, I find super fascinating because you can also use it as a weapon against other enemies. They actually do a lot with this bomb mechanic because there are some cannons that shoot at you, and these bombs are the same bombs that you hold and throw at them. There's also things like bouncy pads, which your bombs bounce off of, and you get some really cool moments like a cannon shooting a bomb at you and it bouncing off the bouncy pad. All those things really well done, and I love how much they've done and are doing with the bomb mechanic. The game also has a kiss button, which I find really cute, that's cool. And like most modern 3D platformers, it's got some customization, so you can buy a bunch of cosmetics throughout the game. So that's pretty cool. I'm probably gonna give this a shot when it's out. There is a chance though that you're into rabbits but not bombs. So there just so happens to be another rabbit-based 3D platformer, and it has nothing to do with bombs, and it's called Sandloop. So this one is a 3D Metroidvania with Middle Eastern influences, which I find so interesting because there's not that many platformers with Middle Eastern influence. And after, a short tutorial, the cutscene and everything, you're put into this hub where you go through the whole ordeal of unlocking moves and everything. There are paths that are blocked that become unblocked when you unlock those moves. You know the typical Metroidvania stuff, but it works real well here. I love the art style. I love the sound. I love, again, the Middle Eastern influence. There's a lot I like about this game. So if you're wondering why it's called Sandloop, it's because there's actually some cool timer mechanic in that your playthrough, I don't know if it's a fixed time, but your playthrough kind of ends after a certain amount of time. Not sure if it's randomized or what, but after that's done, you're sent back to the beginning with your unlocked moves and everything, and you now can access areas that you couldn't in the beginning. You also see characters that you've helped along the way, because there are side quests that get you doing things that get characters sent back to the hub, which I love because that reminds me so much of the first Digimon world, and I was a big fan of that game. There's just a lot that I like about this game. I'll say the one issue I had with the game is the first 15-20 seconds I had, for some reason, super low frame rates, but that went away after a while. The 2D animated cutscenes are also not my style of cutscenes, but I'd rather have any cutscenes than no cutscenes, so can't complain too much. But yeah, game feels great, looks great. I'm gonna give it a shot when it's out. More 3D Metroidvanias, please. The next one has you controlling a golf ball, which is an interesting concept, and it's called the bold bogey. In this one, there technically is no jump button. Your primary method of movement is like a golf ball, being swung at an arc. A cool concept that I'm surprised hasn't been done before. At the start of the game, you can only basically shoot yourself somewhere, and you kind of get upgrades on the way, and there's some such as being able to spin mid-jump or being able to break mid-jump, which I'm glad exists because I'm not sure if just the central golf mechanic would carry a game. So these upgrades are much needed and they feel pretty good. Another thing that I'm really glad the game has is a self-destruct mechanic, which sends you back to where you were before you took the swing, because with it being more of a physics-based game, there's a big chance that things go wrong. So it's cool that you can just kind of respawn back to where you were previously instead of having to go through an entire ordeal just to be back where you were before the swing. The way the swing works is basically you've got this meter that goes up when you hold the shoot button, and it can control the angle or trajectory that you are swung or shot at, and this trajectory and the power changes depending on the level, and these are two really cool variables that add a lot of spice to the gameplay. For example, there are these more open areas, like a proper golf field, where you're going to want to move a bit faster, so your shots are a lot stronger and you can aim farther. There's also these mini games where it's more of a mini golf thing where you can't really change the trajectory. So again, there's a lot that they do with this, and it's really promising for the final game. Now, I had two issues with my playthrough. One of them was that the trajectory arc thing was not always accurate. There were times where it would tell me that I'd go somewhere and I wouldn't actually go there. Thankfully, this seems to have been fixed the next day, so that's out of the way. The other issue I had is more of a preference thing, but this spin mechanic, this spin upgrade that you unlock allows you to spin while you're in the air. The thing is, the game sometimes thinks you're in the air while you're not, which means you can roll around while you're grounded, basically. And, you know, when your central mechanic is that you have to use this, like, aiming mechanic to move, giving you the freedom to roll around and then taking it away doesn't feel too good. So hopefully that gets fixed or somehow sorted out. But other than that, I really like the game. Keeping with the trend of unique 3D platforming protagonists, we go from a golf ball to a candle. So in this one, Super Candle World, you play as a candle. The story is, I think it's someone's birthday or something, and they need a certain amount of biscuits, and you set out on this food-themed adventure with a lot of cakes and candy and fruits to collect these biscuits. Now, this game is really cute. I had a good time with it, but it's not really doing too much new. So I don't really have too much to say. I liked what I played of it. I like the visuals. I like what they're doing with the food, but I think I'm gonna have to wait out and see how the final game is. There are a few issues, like being able to walk when there's a cutscene or something, so you don't even know where you're going. The way I found this out was by the sound the footsteps make when you walk, and it sometimes kind of feels unfinished in some ways, but again, it is just a demo, so the final game is probably going to feel a bit more finished. And still, it's a very well made one of those. I'll have to see when the game is out if I'm actually going to give it a try, but you know, it's a cute one and probably a great first platformer for a kid. So we continue the trend with a bit more of a cartoony look with Sonys Lagoon. This game has got a very strong, in-your-face kind of sense of humor. You play as a manta ray, and yeah, speaking of unique 3D platforming protagonists, you're actually platforming through water, so you're technically always swimming. This might be a bit annoying at times with it being a bit too slippery, but you know, you get used to it. It's not a huge problem. Sense of humor here is, again, really strong, and you know, it depends on you if you like it or hate it. I do actually like it. It's very charming. I love that there's just a massive sun with sunglasses at the bottom right of the screen at all times, and a speedometer on the bottom left. Super unnecessary, but super fun. There's some rail gliding. The actual movement, other than the slipperiness that you get used to, feels pretty good. I did encounter a few tiny bugs, like grinding on the floor above a grind rail, which was a bit weird. But yeah, give this one a shot. I don't have too much to say, but I had a good time with the game, and I'm probably going to give it a shot when it's out. Next one might just be my favorite one of all of these. From the beginning, from when I started the game, I could tell that this one was going to be memorable, because it doesn't just have a boring old start screen. You actually start as an alien holding a comic book, and the drawings are actually your options, and I found this so cool. One of the absolute best start screens I've seen in a long time, and I knew I was in for a ride. Once you start the game, it actually zooms in to the top left panel of a comic book, and it jumps straight into gameplay. Now, the first tiny area of the game had some weird Unreal Engine issues with the textures being super low quality, but I'm sure this is going to be figured out when the game is out. But yeah, the game starts and you're this robot, and you have this little tool that acts like some sort of vacuum or magnet thing that allows you to pick up little blocks like tiles, and you can place these tiles at some pre-designated spots, which allow you to form platforms to get to where you need to be. Now, it sounds pretty simple maybe. The cool thing is, you can also completely rotate these objects in pretty much any axis, which is cool in and of itself, but you can also stack these things on top of each other, and this also allows you to do things like form bridges. And the cool thing is you can just form them however you like. It never properly restricts you, so you can basically do it any way you want, and it's just such a simple but well executed concept. Everything is just so extremely polished, and then you get actually into some cool mechanics. So towards the end of the game, you can actually build your own freaking robot, and not only that, you can put as many things as you want in between the robot's lower body and upper body, which the game actually expects you to do. And this is all just a demo of the game, so I'm really excited for the game, and I'm 100% gonna give it a shot. Yeah, Jungster is great. If you're afraid that it's all downhill from here, well, worry not, because we still have some great games to go through. This next one is actually a really interesting isometric 3D platformer, which I think you don't really see that much, at least not since the Game Boy Advance days. This one is Solar Voltage, and it has you playing as a fox, I think, and you're on the spaceship that crashes onto this weird planet, and you go out in an attempt to gather enough resources to fix your ship. So I was a bit hesitant on this whole little like isometric 3D thing, but it actually really works. The issues I thought I'd have, like depth perception and a stiff feeling movement system, but the game actually feels pretty good, and I never had issues perceiving where I was going to be after a jump. You've got a roll, a jump, and a dash after you jump, and you can combine these to go quite the distance, and I'm sure you'll be seeing that on the clips. I think there's either 2 or 3 levels in the demo. I only tried 2, and you're supposed to collect all of the main collectibles, which are batteries to fix your ship. You also collect these like voltage. Yeah, I don't know what they are exactly, but they also contribute to your batteries. There's a lot of really well designed puzzles here, things that actually really made me use my brain. Now, it's not impossible, of course, but it's just well designed in a way where you're gonna feel smart after you finish a puzzle. There's also a decent amount of dialogue here, and a lot of it is optional, which is great because I love my stories in platformers, but I know not everyone does. There's some tiny minor combat, but it's not too much. Most of your moves are used for the puzzles and like getting around, and I think the perspective and the way the levels have been designed make it actually really hard to get lost. Like I almost never felt like I was lost, even with one of the bigger levels. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I hope we get more of these types of games, like isometric 3D platformers. I love how much diversity we have with these 3D platformers these days. And a perfect example of that is this next one called Lost Host. So it might be stretching it calling this one a platformer, but you do buy a jump ability not too far into the demo, so I'm going to consider it a platformer. So in this game, you play as a toy car that's left in the dust after its owner goes missing. There's an intriguing mystery element with all of this. The game also has this tactile feel because everything you touch kind of moves or deforms with your interactions. You can also grab, I guess, magnetically grab a bunch of objects and be able to throw them. The car also feels very kind of realistic, and this kind of brings me to sort of a negative point. Maybe it's just a get good point, but I kind of suck at this game. I keep falling off. I can't really get to where I want to be. I kind of always overshoot or overdrift and fall off and have to go all the way back up. I'm not sure if this is a skill issue or what. Just feels like the car could be a bit tighter, and I think it's literally just numbers in the code that could be changed and not a fundamental reworking, but this might just be me. The concept itself though is really good, and the execution on the actual puzzles and theming and everything is really good. I love playing games where you're playing as a tiny thing in a human world. It's always fascinating. I love games like Toy Story 2 or Tinykin, and the game does it pretty well here. The demo's pretty short. There's not too much to do in the demo, but you know, it is still pretty fun to mess around. I see on the Steam page there's a picture with a dog, and even within the demo there's like a Roomba that you kind of have to avoid. So I love seeing what games do to recontextualize things in our world to be game elements, like a Roomba being an enemy. But yeah, this one seems promising. My own issue again is the controls, but if that's fixed, or you know, if I get used to it as I play through the game, this is going to be a great one to look forward to. Next up we have Fireside Fables, which is actually supposed to be coming out pretty soon. So this one is a narrative-driven platformer made in partnership with a hospital charity, which is always great to see, and there's a percentage of the actual profit that will go into this hospital charity. I didn't fully finish this demo. I do like it. There's a lot that I like about it. It's very charming. I like the way it looks. I like the music. I like the variety in this. Like, you can play on a Game Boy like console where you play like a 2D game, which I always love in games like these. The story also seems pretty endearing with a pirate focus, though obviously it's going to be tailored towards kids. It's still cute. My one issue, I think, and it's kind of a big issue, is just the jank. Like, it kind of feels like it could use a few more months of polish. If you can overlook the jank, this is a good time. If not, then I feel bad for saying you shouldn't buy a game where the money goes to charity, but maybe try out the demo and see how you feel about this. But if the jank does get figured out, I'm probably going to give this one a shot. Otherwise, I'm going to get to it down the line, but I'm probably still going to get to it either way. But yeah, those are some of the demos I wanted to talk about. There's a few more that I've played before and I've talked about before on this channel, so you can check out those videos. Still, just in this video, there's at least 5 great platformers. So I know I always end these videos talking about how great I feel about the genre, but I do really feel good about the genre. Not sure if these demos are still up. The next fest is over, so some of these games might still have their demos up, some of them might not. If anything here seemed interesting, give it a wish list and everything. Support indie devs always, and I will see you in whatever the next video is. Bye-bye.